touch the throttle plate right there. It's picking up my tiny bit of throttle plate movement, so it's recalibrated right now, and everything should be good. So let's fire it up, and what we're gonna have to do is add a little bit more spark timing. So I reduced the airflow contribution coming into the engine. Now to make up for that, so less airflow means less torque. Less torque means less RPM. So to counter-react that, I'm gonna give it a little bit more spark timing. In our zero demand table, the zero demand table is gonna allow us to bump that idle spark timing back up, or the idle torque back up, to get things back in line, and it should hold and maintain where we want for the idle speed. So what I'm gonna do is jump into my spark tuning, and we can see I previously had my values here in the negatives. I'm gonna go and put this at something a little bit more reasonable. Let's just do it at something like 10 degrees. And even down here at 1,000 RPM, we'll set this all to 10 degrees. We want it to idle about 10, 15 degrees ideally. Let's see where we're at here. So let me go fire it up. I'm gonna leave it on this particular page right here, so I'm gonna make sure it's out of gear here real quick, and let's fire it up here. And we don't need a data log. We can just kind of watch what's going on here on screen. Just let it run here, and we can see now the timing. You can see the ignition angle is moving around a little bit. We might need a little bit more timing than when we had it in there at 10 degrees. That's our base. We see the ignition angle. That's what the actual ignition timing is doing. We can see that the idle spark timing feedback is adding that timing back in here. Let me give it a little bit more timing here. Let me go to 20 degrees at idle here. We can see that it's going to be maybe a little bit choppy right there, kind of going back and forth here. Let me drop that back down just a little bit. Let's go back to 10 degrees. There is a sweet spot for idle adjustment. We can see right about there, it seems to be happy. Too much timing can make it jumpy, a little bit unstable. So this seems fairly good for the idle speed. So our target was roughly 1,000. We don't want to idle much lower than 1,000 with these big injectors and cams. It says Skunk 2 Pro 1s. So the idle is pretty smooth overall. We might be able to go and let me just see what happens here if I just go a little bit lower on the timing, try to smooth it out maybe just a little bit. You can see it's smoothing out just a tad. So let me just rev it and make sure it returns back to idle. That's going to be kind of the next test. We don't want it to maintain an idle here when we're off throttle, and then we start to drive it and it stalls because we don't have enough airflow there. We want to have a little bit of an airflow reserve with our throttle plate opening so that we can dynamically move our timing if we're coming back into idle, and we're decelerating back into idle, I should say. It catches the idle speed. So let me go and blip the throttle real quick and make sure it returns and holds the idle speed we'd like. You can see at 900 RPM, I have it at 10 degrees. Let me bump that up to 20 degrees here. Let's get a little bit more aggressive with this. And at 800, let me go to 25 degrees. And at 700, let's go to 30 degrees. Let me just blip the throttle and try this. And we can see it stalls. So that is going to be an issue. That's going to be something that we have to go in and turn our idle screw up a little bit. So let me go out, let me turn the idle screw up a little bit. I went a little bit too far down. It's always gonna take back and forth to get it sorted out. It's never gonna be something you can just guess the first try. So let me go out, let me do that. We're gonna have to do another throttle position relearn every time we change our throttle stop screw. So I'll be right back, and then we'll test this again. Again, that's gonna be our test to make sure that we have it set right. Even though it's holding a stable idle, when we're coming into idle, if it's stalling like that, and we have our mechanical idle set like we're doing right now, we can't compensate. If we had an idle control motor or drive-by-wire, we wouldn't have to go through this process. We can control it all virtually, but this is going to be a mechanical and virtual control kind of together with this mechanical type of idle. Let me go check it, I'm gonna change it, I'll be right back, and then we'll continue on. All right, so I adjusted the throttle again. Let's fire it up and let's check this, and let's get our timing sorted out here. So again, our test, rev it, bring it back into idle, and have it catch and not stall as we just experienced right there. So let me fire it up. Now, our goal is to have a surplus of airflow, so we have a little bit more engine torque than we need. We can see right now our engine speed is a little bit high. Let me bring this down here in timing. Let me go down here to something like 5 degrees. As we reduce the timing, it reduces the idle torque and it gets us closer to the target. Our target is 1,000. That's where we said we'd like to idle at. Let me go bring it down here just a little bit more. Now, what we could do here is actually bring our idle speed up a little bit. Maybe go to 1,200. Instead of trying to idle it down at 1,000, we can kind of do a balance here. Now, we are on the 2,000 cc injectors. It does need to have maybe a little bit more idle speed so that we have a little bit more injector pulse, so the engine runs a little bit smoother with these big injectors. Now, we are on E85, which definitely helps. The C85 definitely helps. We have to run the injector a little bit more, have a little bit more injector pulse with it idle, which contributes and helps with stability with the injector, because the injector can make everything unstable. So let's actually go here to the idle control, and then thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos are going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.